I'm the only fashion designer who really cares so much to analyse what they do in broader cultural terms. That's the only way that I can stimulate my intelligence. For the past 5 seasons, I have designed my collections under the main title of Britain Must Go Pagan. By pagan, I mean the age of classical and Hellenistic Greece. I believe that we live in an age which is very uncivilized. It's less civilized than pagan Greece. Those Greeks believed in cultivating skepticism. They believed that opinions should be formed on the basis of fact, rather than emotion or passion.
I think that Vivienne has very strong Jean Brodie quality. She's always keen on leading people out to the light, and so ancient Greece, pagan Greek love stuff, as transmuted through a screen of Edwardian writing, is what she's on about now.
I promote the idea of I wouldn't like to say strange sexuality. I play around with the idea of sexuality because I don't like orthodoxy in any shape or form. What you play around with are, first of all, the poles of masculine and feminine. And I don't think it's possible for any man to be sexy unless he's got a touch of femininity in what he's wearing. I mean, just think of Elvis Presley with a pink shirt and a kiss curl, but terribly macho and terribly, terribly sexy.
I think Vivienne's clothes are probably more innocently sexual, actually. I would say they're less overt and more charmingly innocent. I think that when you look at Vivienne's clothes, or somebody wearing Vivienne's clothes, there is an element of charm always, an element of naive innocence.
I do not believe, as people have been brought up to believe today, that sin with regard to sex means anything that is viewed as unorthodox. It's entirely for people privately to decide what they want to do. Their sexuality is their own to do with as they wish, and pagans would have absolutely not understood. They would have been bewildered. The other thing that I'm doing with regard to Britain Must Go Pagan when I present a collection is that I am pushing the idea of elegance. Now, I have just started designing my next collection, and the only thing that I was absolutely sure of when I started to think about it was that I was going to start from this very, very English base, as I have been doing for some time. And previously, I have worked with factories in this case, the borders of Scotland, and I've asked them to coordinate fabric to match my knitswear. So here you've got a pair of tights, and I especially had them pick the colours out and make it match exactly. And everything coordinates here. And there's a cap. And this time, I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to look more accidental, so everything looks really, really juicy, tasteful, sometimes a little underplayed. But I wanted the elegance that you would get from this accidental look, as if it were really country life.
Well, Vivienne's nothing if she's not unconventional, you know. I mean, her use of tweeds is so unobvious that it makes, you know, you get that slight perverse quality to the garment, you know, to the look. She's talking about England in her clothes. She's talking about the state that we as a nation are in. She talks about the world. She talks about people's perceptions of each other. She talks about class. She talks, you know, she's got a wide vocabulary.
If you take something in the colour of this dress, but instead of having it in a jersey, you would have it in a red barathea, it would immediately remind you of fox hunting. If you took a maroon Melton, it would remind you of a schoolboy in his blazer. And every fabric, almost every traditional fabric that you look at in England has got a charge of content. And the reason for that, I believe, is because England had that empire, and there were so many facets of the empire that required a uniform.
Vivienne Westwood was particularly fond of British cloths, British woolens, British tartans and tweeds, and interprets them in a completely new way. She'll mix and match them. She'll put great gouges, great slashes in them, and pull through vivid coloured linings, which are in complete contradiction to these rather heavyweight wools. She likes to go back to historic dress, but she doesn't slavishly use elements from historic dress. She takes features which she wants and can see potential in them, and then completely twists them around and makes them into something new, quite modern.
All the things that fueled her, all the obsessions she builds her work around are typically British. The whole thing about class and sex, the particular obsession with the Queen, you couldn't develop those anywhere else. And in a way, and she wouldn't like this comparison one bit, it's quite legitimate to compare her with William Morris, because she's a craftswoman working on a small scale, but with big ideas attached to the small industrial process.